Welcome to Custom Home Builder Solutions, also known as CHS, a job costing, full accounting, and profit management software for the professional home builder. In this particular video, we are going to talk about the feature for closing your books at year end, the feature where CHS will just help prepare a journal entry for you real quickly to close books. And by closing books in accounting terminology at the end of your fiscal calendar year, it means taking all the balances in your income and expense accounts as of that date and clearing them out, in other words, reversing them in a journal entry, and then putting the net of all of those into an equity account. For corporations, quite often retained earnings. For a sole proprietor, it might be owner equity, etc. And we're going to get to that in a minute. But there's a couple of things that you should check out. I'm going to click this button for close books. One is before closing books at year end, check previous years. So it's telling you how you can do that right here, and we're going to come back to do that in a minute. But I'd like to show you something. If you're doing financial statements, and we're in the year 2016, actually into May a ways now. And we just print a balance sheet, and maybe we do one with GL numbers, and we just do it as of today. And we take a look at all of our stuff. We'll notice that things, assets, total assets, $632,595, and liabilities and equities the same, so we are balanced. In order to balance a balance sheet, which is about all your assets, liabilities, and then equity, that's your full set of books, we need to sum up the balances in your profit and loss accounts. If your books total to zero with debits and credits, this sum up of your profit and loss accounts and plugging it in here makes it so that we can produce a balance sheet. And the reason I call it sum of profit and loss accounts is because there's a chance that you haven't closed the previous year yet. In other words, move the balances out of the profit and loss accounts into the owner equity in this builder's case. So you'll see this amount here. This may or may not be just for this year, the net income for this year, and that's why I don't write current period net income or anything here. I want it to be clear that this is the sum of the profit and loss accounts. So I'm going to export this to PDF so I can minimize it down on my toolbar. So I'll open with PDF. And we'll just keep it minimized and close. So now if we close this and we go to do an income statement for the current year, 0101, 2016, through to today, which is 0525, 2016, or we could even, just go all the way to 1231, just because we want to make sure we've got everything for the year. And if I do an income statement, I'll just do one with GL numbers. Our bottom line here is we've just had some rental income. We posted a little later thing for some costs that came in on a job that was closed. We've had a little bit of expenses, G&L expenses, and we're showing a net income of $8,521.40, which is definitely not the same, and I'm going to export this to PDF, not the same as the current sum of your income and expense accounts that go on income statements, and that's the sum. And some people expect to find that being the same, but if you haven't closed the previous year, there will still be balances in that income statement account. So what I'd like to do is close this. This says if the sum and profit and loss accounts on a balance sheet are not matching, it might mean you need to use the button on the Home tab to close books at year end, which we are going to do in a minute. But let's go home, and I'd like to show you one other tool that could be real useful for spotting whether you close something. Let's do monthly activity spread. And you can actually, once this gets opened, what it is it starts taking every GL account, spreads from January to December for every year that there was. But let's say we're just interested in our income and expense accounts. the way you could really get to that is they're all under, after equity, they're in these various financial sections. So we could say we just want these financial sections. We just want to search for accounts that are in those financial sections. So let's take a look here. We have 2014. We showed sales in February. This is our demo set of books, so there's who knows what there is. But notice over here, closing entry 0, 0, 0. Let's watch this as we go down, and we're going to talk about, maybe we can find some. Look here, this one is some entries that were in 2013 to advertising. In September, we currently spent $175. And you can see that we did closing entries. Total plus closing means that this balance is 0 at the end of 2013. And you can see ones that had closing entries. That was year 2013. But look how 2014 still has a balance, 350, and no closing entries. So that's a clue right there that we haven't closed 2014. And if you do a search, you're going to see we probably have some stuff in 2015 we should have closed too. And you could just look for that, but notice how 2015 still has balances in it, and 2014. So that's one way to look at it, and you can print reports of whatever you search for. You could just search for 1 year, certain accounts, that kind of thing, or 1 or 2 years by holding down your control key, that kind of thing. So I wanted you to know about that tool, which is a good way to sort of spot if you did a report. It's to be legal size landscape, and it comes out in PDF just because of that, but you could do a report of that whole thing if you wanted to study on it. So that's one way to do it. But the way that it's suggesting here is, if I go home and I went back to close books year end, is you should start backwards. Say I'm thinking, oh, I needed to close 2015 because this is 2016. But before you close 2015, you might want to check. You kind of already know it from that spreadsheet, but you might want to look and see if you actually closed 2014. This builder's equity account they're closing their books into is owner equity. And what you do right here is review accounts that will be closed. If it finds any with balances, that means that year, 2014, has not been closed. So then you should go back and check a year before that. And let's review those accounts. And it finds no records. That means we did close 2014. You can actually see that because what's created when you do closing is something called journal entries. It creates a journal entry. And CHS's lingo when it helps you create a journal is CLS for close 12/2013. And you could, since you can search partially, if you watch the video about journal entries, you can type some partial thing in here to search for things that might have the CLS. This one was actually a regular journal entry not created by CHS. You might want to avoid CLS. You just want to look and see what your closing entries have been. So I can tell that's the only one I had that I didn't do 2014. So this video is also mainly about what happens when you close your books at end of year. Let's change this to 214. We could again look at 2014, see if we're fine with what's going to close. It's going to take all of these balances and make an entry to reverse them. The $60,558.96 that was for 2014 will end up in owner equity. And if you're fine with it, you could print that out and keep it. It should kind of match your income statement for that period, for that year 2014, but you can post the journal entry batch to close the books. Is it okay to do that? It says note that the journal entry batch can be created, can be reviewed or deleted on that journal entries window that I just opened. So you can delete them if you decide you need to redo it, post some adjusting journal entries or something, and then redo your closing entries. So I'll click OK. It's been posted. The journal entry batch ID is CLS 122014, and a report will open. And this report is showing me that journal entry that happened. Notice that now it's debiting sales, single-family home, crediting. It's doing all the reversal things, and it also did a couple of entries to owner equity because it actually keeps track. Since we can do little balance sheets for each job, etc., it will post things into owner equity, summing up by jobs and or departments. So there's a report total that you could get of your closing entry. Now, we still need to look. We could run our little report again too to make sure now there's no records. Now we should try 2015 and see if there's anything that we still need to get closed. And we didn't have any activity much in our demo company in 2015. So we did have a little bit of sales and a little bit of cost of sales, and some insurance, general liability, and something else that happened for actually I think a net loss, yes, of $575, or no, a gain because it's a credit balance. It's the income statement balances, so a credit means that's a net income. So I'm going to go ahead and close that one too. Post the journal entries. Say we said we're a little idle in 2015, this builder, and then came back and started doing way more stuff in 2016. So if we review the accounts now after doing the journal entry, there's no records in the report. So now if we look at, let's go back to our financials. And remember that we minimized our income statement for the year 2016. And it said $8,521.40. Let's take a look at our balance sheet today after posting the closing journal entries. And there it is, the sum and profit and loss accounts. In other words, those are balances for entries only incurred in the year 2016 because we closed those balances out as of, we have all of them closed out as of 12/31/15. So thereafter, the total of the balances in there is $8,521.40, which matches right up with your current year net income statement. And like I said, you can go to journal entries. You can see, if we did the CLS again, search, and these are sort of descending. You can see close 12/2013, close 12/2014, close 12/2015. And if you need to do a report of what that journal entry was, and that's all closing of books at year end. It's not rocket science. It's not magic. CHS doesn't mark it anywhere. It will look for a journal entry that has this type of wording in it for a date after something that you're trying to enter or edit, and it may prevent you because it does find that there's a closing entry dated after what you're trying to edit. And you'll get that kind of message sometimes. It looks for this kind of entry, and it has a way to do that based on that verbiage. But that's really, if you show your accountant this, etc., that's really sort of all there is to the button for closing. It just creates a journal entry. Again, you could edit it, or if you came along and did some adjusting journal entries, like say we suddenly got some from our accountant now that needed to be dated in 2015, we could post those or handle whatever they wanted us to fix, and then close it again. They'll have balances in there. And that's why it says you should always check before you close your books at year end. You should start always going backwards a year, over a year ago, and then backwards and backwards to make sure you don't have any lurking income statement accounts that actually still need to be closed out that didn't have anything to do with the year that you're closing. So if you're closing 12/31/2015, your first step should be to enter 12/31/2014, see if there's balances. If there are, then enter 12/31/2013 and see if there's balances. If there are not, then you can just decide to go ahead and close 2014 and backwards, kind of like that, where you check things out to make sure they did get completely closed, that you hadn't overlooked doing a closing entry. So that's really all there is. I'll probably put a little link to this video right here and in the help, and also on the near where I have this note, so that you can click to see a video about all of this and about how to close your books at year end. And thank you for watching.